Good Friday morning, everybody. It is one of those mornings where I slept in, Jerry slept in, and I'm just now getting my brain out of the fog almost an hour later. I did not notice any new questions or comments that warranted discussion. I do appreciate all those people who do make their comments and their positive energy onto my channel with their thumbs up and their positive comments when they make comments. I know this is not a special day. This is just a Friday. This is not like Saturday or Sunday or whatever day you want to consider your religious day. I live day by day. And each day I'm thankful for waking up. And I'm thankful for my wife waking up. And then I see the positive comments or the positive marks on my latest video, and I'm thankful for that. There's a lot of things I'm thankful for that I don't always express because it's in my heart, and I feel that sometimes if it's in my heart, there's no reason to verbally express it because the positive energy is flowing, and it makes for a better day. Granted, we did sleep in until about 10, somewhere between 10:50 and 11 o'clock this morning. Our alarm did go off at 8:30 to remind us to take our meds, but we were just too tired to even lift our eyes, let alone lift a hand towards our medicine dispensers. And I just kind of went, whatever, rolled over. I remember Jerry asking a question, and I just kind of went, I'm too tired to worry about it. Let's just sleep in. So that's what we ended up doing, and I ended up waking up at like I said, 10 till 5 till 11, and went, yeah, I think we should get up. Otherwise, we're going to sleep the day away. And I have too many things I need to do today that need to be done, especially, some minor cleaning from last night in the kitchen and laundry. You need to do laundry every so often. So I got up, I sat up and I took my morning meds and, got myself changed and whatnot, ready for the day as best as I could without coffee. And Jerry was having problems because I love my wife. I like to let her indulge once in a while. She knows her limits. She knows what she's supposed to do. Well, yesterday we got made right. Now, anybody who's in the Midwest, especially Rolla area, because I don't know if there's any made rights anywhere else, made rights has got some their fried chicken is awesome. They have this thing, their made right burgers. Well, most people think burger is like a patty of beef. No, this is chopped up meat. This is chopped up beef put on a bun. It's basically one ingredient short of being sloppy Joe, and sloppy Joe, has got the tomato paste, whatever, to hold the meats together. Well, no, this is just the chopped up meat without the Joe part. My grandmother used to call them gushy burgers. They fall apart really easily, so when you eat these, you have to literally eat these wrapped up in a wrapper or over a plate, so you can scoop up the ingredient of the meats that fell out to eat with a fork or something like that. Well, my wife usually, when she has a burger, takes off the top bun. You can't really do that with this. So she ate a whole bun. It's a lot of gluten. So this morning she's being affected by the gluten. Her joints are a little stiff and whatnot. So she's paying for that, which is more. She had more gluten yesterday than she normally does. We started out the day with a gluten-free breakfast pizza from Casey's. You know, but still, it's one of those things where it's like, enjoy what you're enjoying the day, the day of, and be prepared for the complications and the side effects from on the next day. So it is what it is. I'm not saying that I don't have any compassion for her or anything like that. I just know that, she knows her limitations and she should be following those limitations. But sometimes when you want something so badly, you forget about your limitations in that moment, and then the next day you're like, oh, yeah. Oops. But anyhow, tomorrow is Saturday. It's the last day we'll have Lisa with us to be in, company. I wish she could stay longer, but she has a medical appointment on Monday, so she has to be back by Sunday night. So I wish her the best in her travels, and I wish her, good health when she gets home for the medical appointment. I don't know exactly what it is. I know they've been talking about, Jerry and Lisa have been talking about she may be getting a hip replacement because the hip joint on her left side has worn itself down to bone on bone and damaged some of the bone itself. So, I mean, I can understand why. I mean, she's a mother of 4 children. All of them, especially the 2 boys, were big babies, heavy babies. So, in fact, her oldest son was a big child. He still is a big guy, but he's not what some people would consider obese. He's just large, but not that large. And then her younger son is tall and lanky and could become a basketball star or something like that, which I don't know if that's what he was aiming for, but he played basketball throughout high school, so I don't know. But he's a good kid. And then her 2 daughters, well, her youngest daughter has 3 boys, and her oldest daughter has a 5-year-old girl, and she is now pregnant and due in September with her second daughter. Yeah, they determined it's a daughter. So it's like, okay, one daughter is going to have all boys, the other daughter is going to have all girls. Yeah, okay. We love them no matter what, Jerry has known Lisa for a very long time. She babysat for Lisa a couple times with the 2 girls. I remember meeting them back in 2000 when they were still young, 22 years ago. Almost 23. Oh boy, yeah. Almost 23 years. No. Yeah. I met them before we got married. That would be 23 years from August. I've been married 22 years from August. So, yeah. But, hey, it's been fun times. But anyhow, now that I've gotten that off my chest, we're going to get into the handbook. And in this section, we're talking about the sewing and weaving and their clothes making process. And it goes to talk about the different methods of creating the different colors. And I'm not going to go through the colors or the process of making the colors. I'm going to jump into the juice of this. they have a song that they sing when weaving, and it has to do with the fates, or the Norse version of the fates. Alrighty, and then they talk about the different methods of making the different articles of clothing, or different ways of weaving. One of their ways is using 4 to 5 blocks with holes drilled in them. To each hole would have a different strand or different thread in it, and they would twist it a certain way to weave it to make belts and sashes. Then they have, of course, using a wooden needle for knitting, wooden needles to knit, or crochet. In fact, I want to show you the blocks that I was talking about. Here we go. These little blocks would have different threads through each hole, and they would just twist it to make a type of belt. And down here they would knot it together so it would not unfray or untwist so easily. Everybody knows what a knitting needle looks like, but theirs were made out of wood. Then they go to talk about the tools, or a tool chest, and this is for like the blacksmith. And they had your basic blacksmithing. Anybody who's ever seen a blacksmith with the iron and forge and all that fun stuff. And they talked about woodworking tools, and this was their basic woodworking tool set. And they have something in here called the master handyman. A well-equipped tool chest found in a bog at, and I cannot pronounce this name, on the Swedish island of Gotland, gives us a clear picture of a traveling handyman of the late Viking age. The 100+ tools include, 100+ tools include woodworking and blacksmithing, or ironworking implements, as well as a few tools for the coppersmith trade. Also had hammers of various sizes, files, rasps, shears, and tongs for working sheet metal, punches for decorative metalworking, lock parts and keys, augers, knives, and sharpening stones. Sorry, I cannot pronounce that word, but I know what they're talking about. As well as woodworking tools for shaping wood, and of course a few axes. It's rare to find Viking era saws, but he had one each for wood and metal. So the craftsmen of the time were sometimes one man would be a jack of all trades, while others, especially if they're home based, would be, you had your blacksmith, your woodworker, your leather worker. Seems the women close to home were seamstress. You even had specialized classes like weaponsmith or armorsmith, or look at Floki from the Viking series. He was a boat builder. He was a master boat builder, and he figured out how to make a boat that can travel across the sea instead of just up and down the rivers. But a lot of times back in the old days, even as far back as the days of Christ, you had you had people who were specialists in a particular field, whether it was your woodworker, your master builder, you know, your farmer, wheat grower, corn grower. There were people who were specialists in a particular field of job or career. Just like nowadays, we have people who are specialists in certain careers, certain fields. Look at the military. The military, they train you to be the best of the best in a particular field. And you have a list of of careers that you can follow, everything from food service specialist to, engineer. A through Z. They had just about every career you can think of. And that's just like in the old days. And it's like, it's not the military, but you are taught from a very young age as an apprentice or the child of, let's say your father was a blacksmith. A lot of times the one of the male children would follow in his father's steps just to keep his name, let alone job, going. It's the way it was. Nowadays, I'm going to take myself for example. When I was a young kid, I thought I was going to follow in my dad's footsteps and be in the Air Force. But then I was told that I didn't have to follow in my dad's footsteps. I can be whatever I wanted to be. And there were times where I flip-flopped from, oh, I want to be in the military. Oh, I want to be a firefighter. Oh, I want to be a police officer. I never thought about anything to do with food service or anything to do with that because my dad did not have a career in food service. At least not that I know of, or not that I remember, because I wasn't even alive when he first started out working in delis and restaurants and the first original IHOP in Chicago. He did a lot throughout his life. It took me half my lifetime, I'm 50 now, to decide what I wanted to do. And I realized I was really good at customer service and food. So most of my jobs have been either customer service of one form or another, or working in the food industry. Now I have a job offer that I have not filled out an application for. I've gotten basically through Indeed. I was offered up, and I don't know if it's still on the table, and I don't know if I want to do it because I don't know if I have the skill set, let alone the psychological fortitude to deal with being a general manager, because I was sent through Indeed from Buffalo Wild Wings to be, they were offering up general management, restaurant manager. And I went, ooh, that would be good money. I can set schedules. I can set my own schedule. I can, maybe I can set my own schedule. I don't know. But I was like, oh man, that would be good to start out with here in the summertime. But come college, when all the college kids are in town, that could be a real headache. And I don't know if I want to take it because I don't know if I have the capacity to do it. I know a lot of people say, hey, it's what's going to determine if you can do it or not is your own mind. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I've been offered up a job or a position in a company that could be a big benefit, but there are other circumstances outside of that career offer that could be more problematic than beneficial. So I'm kind of like, I gotta weigh my options. I gotta look at all my information and weigh, the outcome. So But the thing I'm getting to, even though I'm talking about, myself and whatnot, is even back during the Viking era, they had skilled professionals or skilled people that were either masters of their trade, or if they were a traveling tradesman, they were basically a jack of all trades. Um, but it's the people like Floki who were masters of their craft. He was a master boat builder. Um, so it's one of those things where even back then you have to go, how was it or who was it that made their boats so good that they can travel across the ocean or down the coastline of Europe, or from the mainland of Europe to Iceland and then over to Greenland, and then eventually getting blown off course to Vinland or North America. You have to think about who is it that made the boat so sturdy that they can do all this stuff. Not only were they able to travel up and down some of the rivers in Europe and England from the coastline, but they were able to be loaded with cargo and not be overweight, not become so overweighted or so heavy that the boat sank to the water edge. Now, there are stories that I've read that talk about these boats. A lot of times these boats were like just mere inches away from being underwater, but still being able to stay afloat and keep going. And I mean, stories here even in America where they're discovering what look like or what are evidence of Viking encampments as far inland as Minnesota and as far down as the North Carolina. Their boats were designed to travel on any form of water that they can get to, whether it was up a stream, along the coastline, across the ocean. That's how skilled sailors they were. And this is all before astronomy or using the stars to travel. This is before 600 years before Christopher Columbus. That's some good boats. That's some good boat builders to make boats that capable of going just about anywhere that they can get to by water. It's crazy, but it works. But let's see here. The next chapter we're going to get to, or the next section number 2. I'm going to say chapter number 2. And it says the kingdom, social life amongst Vikings. And the first section is on feasts and festivals. And we'll get into that tomorrow. This talks about the seasons, the feasts, the merrymaking, and they even go into the grooming and some of the grooming essentials and the various different types of haircuts and all that fun jazz. So we will get into that tomorrow. I'm going to end this with just a bit of, well, you can take it however you want to. I read this book, or halfway through this book, I read past this part. And I tell you what, if we were living like they did back then, and I don't mean the raiding and the pillaging and the warfare or anything like that, I mean the social aspects or the everyday life of a Norseman. And I'm not going to say Viking, I'm going to say Norseman. The world would be a whole lot more civilized and peaceful and we wouldn't have so many problems that we do nowadays. Now, I can understand the way they solved problems back then probably would be a little bit more dangerous than nowadays, in that aspect. But their social standards, their laws, their rules, would make things a lot more civil. Because let's say every city or every village, town, whatever you want to call it, had what they had set up back then. The chieftain, the lawgiver, or basically a person who holds the laws, knows the laws front and back, and advises the chieftain on various different rulings or what to do about certain events or certain incidents. And then you had your soothsayer or shaman, who is your, the person who sees things or has visions or whatever you want to call it. I mean, yeah, it might sound a little bit weird and non-Christian, but just think. Put the religious aspect aside. Put the shaman aside. Just you have your chieftain of the village and your law keeper. And if there was an incident, you'd bring the two people forward. Each one gets to speak their piece without interrupting each other, because that's considered a no-no. And once they both had their piece, spoke their piece and whatnot, those two people would be pulled away from the courtroom or pulled away from the meeting chamber. The chieftain, the lawgiver, and maybe one or two advisors would speak, would talk, would have their say. And granted, it was up to the chieftain to give the final verdict, but let's just say the lawgiver reminds the chieftain that they broke this rule or this rule or this rule. So peaceful negotiations would happen, and depending on the severity of the rule broken, depends on the punishment. And a lot of times the punishment is simply you have to pay this other person whatever. Or you're basically forfeiting your freedom to become this person's servant for a period of time. But you got to treat each other with respect no matter what. If you broke a severe law, it was up to the chieftain what to do, and depending on the severity of the law that was broken, depends on the severity of the punishment. Now, lightweight punishment is basically you are stripped of title and land, and you become basically poor. You become the victim's servant to do with as that person pleased. If it was something a little bit higher, you might be exiled from the village for a couple weeks. If it was truly bad, you may be basically stripped of your title and be given a low title like worm and be outcast. So basically, let's say if you committed murder, it is up to the victim or the family of the victim what to do with you. And now, back then, most people didn't care about dying, so they were already prepared to die. So the worst punishment they could perform on you would be strip you of your title, your name, basically turn you into an outcast. And once you leave the village border or whatnot, you are open to, if the family decided to hunt you down and basically kill you, that's their right. The worst of worst punishments is either beheading. If the family decides that you should die, basically, you were either beheaded, or if they wanted you to suffer, you were given a blood eagle. And that's the worst crime possible, because 9 times out of 10, you survive the blood eagle until they, you can survive it for a long period of time depending on your tolerance of pain. Because I'm going to describe this, and this is like the worst punishment I can think of, is you had your arms stretched out and tied down while the person who is performing the ritual of the blood eagle would cut a line, basically cut your back from shoulder to shoulder and down your spinal cord. Then they would take an axe and hack open your rib cage and spread your rib cage out. And then they would take your lungs and flip it over your shoulders to make the wings of the eagle. And if you survived any of that, you were basically hung up, arms stretched out until you died. And then your corpse was left there somewhere outside the village for the carrion bird, the carrion eaters to pick away at your body. And all the ways that I can think of dying in the Viking era, that is like the worst. I'd rather be allowed to survive on my own in the wilderness, and granted, I'd have to be watching over my back every moment of my life, the rest of my life, but at least I have a chance of survival. Because I have blood eagle, no thank you. That just thinking about the words alone, it's just like, But even though nowadays we look back at those times and we go, man, their life was harsh. Their life was harsh, but they had a set of rules and regulations that made a lot of sense to me. Because, the process nowadays is just too long, too drawn out. It's better to take the two people who are bickering for whatever reason and have them go before the chieftain and speak the peace and let the chieftain decide, and hope that the decision is in your favor, than sitting in a 8x8 jail cell waiting for your day at court. And yeah, the life of a chieftain back then was somewhat simplified, because he just sat on his chair, throne, whatever you want to call it, listening to these people, speak their piece, and then having them step out of the great room or building, whatever, and have your lawkeeper and two advisors come up and, speak their piece and advise the chieftain of what the law says to do, and what could be done, and maybe a witness or something like that could speak their piece, and then make the decision. Now, I've heard stories about some of the great chieftains of the Viking era, and yeah, there are some of them that were downright bastards, and there are other ones that were fair and made fair decisions. I can't remember what that one chieftain's name was. He was depicted in, I can't remember what show it was now, but he was the one king that fortified or brung all the Norwegian. He was the king of Norway for the most part, and he brung all the different tribes together in one big band. But he was also the one king of Norway that brung the Christian movement into the region. I don't know. I can't remember names now, but Sometimes I look back at history and go, you know what? For all that we've done to move forward um, in progression and, modernization and historical evolution, I still look back at some of the stories of old and go, you know what? Granted, it was a bloody time, but it was simplified. It was a really simplified time. But the thing is, one of the things I don't like about history is a lot of history books, a lot of the history that you can openly go to and get the information from a bookstore or whatnot. Not all the histories talk about both sides of the coin. They only talk about the victors. And it makes it hard for somebody like me who wants to know everything and not just what the books say. Because look at American history alone. During the westward movement, there's a lot of talk and a lot of stories about the victories that were had over people like Sitting Bull and the other different Native American people or leaders that they talk about in history books. They don't always talk about the victories that those Native American people had over the U.S. cavalry. The one that everybody knows about is how Custer basically lost his life at the Little Bighorn. And it's like how many other victories, how many other stories are out there from the Native American side compared to what history has written about them. A lot of history books don't want to talk about the sad side, don't want to talk about the Native Americans as the victims. And very rarely do you hear stories about the Native Americans who were the victors in history against the white man's incursion. I feel sorry for the Native Americans because of the fact that they for the most part, most Native American people are peace-loving people until you back them into a corner, and that's when they get, that's when the violence comes out, because you're trying to push them off of lands that they've been living on for eons. But nowadays I laugh, not because of the factor of what the history books said back then, but because what's happening now. I laugh because of the factor the Native American peoples who have been given freedom to do what they want on their current land, on the lands that they've been given by the United States government, even though most of those lands were not their original tribal lands. Casinos. White man's greed in full spectrum. Now, I know a lot of people think, oh, casinos, we're talking about Vegas. Okay, yeah, I know about Vegas. I either live in Vegas or I've been to Vegas multiple times, and I've been to the casinos and the all-you-can-eat restaurants and blah, blah, blah. No. I'm talking about the casinos that have popped up in various parts of America on Native American lands. I laugh because of these because the Native people have gotten smart about white man's greed. What is the one thing every white man wants more of, no matter how much they have? Money. Money is the root of so many different evils in this country that it's pathetically crazy. And the Native people have realized this and said, okay, we're going to get back at the white man for what they did to us by taking their money through casinos. Now, I'm not saying that they're doing anything illegal or anything like that. They built the casinos. They offered up, hey, come to our casino, stay the night, gambling, food, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. White men are easily gravitated to anything that could be a quick win, fast money. A lot of schemes and pawns and whatnot to get money from another person is usually created by another white man or somebody that knows that white people are fools and will buy just about anything for nothing with a gimmick. I know this because I almost fell for it several different times throughout my life, and I learned from it. But the thing is I never fell into the scheme. I'll give you an example. I was 23, 24 years of old age. I was working a security guard job. I got a phone call during the daytime when I usually sleep because I work night jobs. And the person on the other line was telling me that I won a camera package. I won a brand new camera. I can't remember the type of camera it was, with a lifetime supply of film and $500. The gimmick was I was supposed to send this person $250 to receive this prize. Now I'm half awake, half asleep, but my brain goes, nope, no, I know what this is. But I was like, oh, okay, so you're telling me I just won a camera, a lifetime of film, $500, but you need $250 for me to receive this. And he goes, yes. I go, okay, here's what we're going to do. Since I won all this stuff, including $500, you're going to send me all that stuff and $250, keep the $250 I owe you, so we're even. He goes, no, that's not how it works. I'm like, why not? If you're telling me I just won $500 and you need $250 for all this stuff, you can easily take $250 out of the $500 that I just won. Send me $250 camera and the film. This went around for circles. This literally circle jerk. We just entered a circle jerk. And I went, look, buddy, I'm young, but I'm not stupid. I was taught as a young age through the military, because my father was in the military, that there's nothing for free. There's always a gimmick. But you're telling me I won $500, yet you need $250. Why can't you take the $250 out if it's mine? I'm giving you the authority to take $250 out of the winnings so you can send me this stuff. If it doesn't work that way, I'm not interested. Have a good day. Find somebody else who's a sucker. Click. I wasn't going to continue the circle jerk. That was before Facebook. That was before a lot of the internet schemes, a lot of the internet garbage. Yes, that was during the time where I had an AOL account. I had a MySpace account. MySpace being the predecessor to AOL, just fancier. Or AOL is fancier than MySpace, but you get the point. That right there, that little scheme, that little event right there, not only was a big lesson for me, but it was a keystone of how I deal with basically people trying to scam me. Now, the internet, I don't even know why I'm going into this, so forget it. Never mind. What I'm trying to say is the way things used to be back then was harder. We had to be harder, we had to be more fit. We did not have time to sit around and play on the computer. The only people who had time to play back then were the kids, until they got to a certain age when they can start helping out with chores. And those chores usually help educate the kids into being young adults, where they can start being an apprentice to their parent, or to, hey, you're interested in making armor or working with leather or woodworking, you're now going to be an apprentice to this gentleman over here, part of the village, to learn his craft, so you can follow in his footsteps. But you're still my son or daughter, because a lot of times the girls learn from mom. A lot of times the boys would learn from somebody else in the village, because dad was out raiding during the raiding season. Life back then was hard, but it was simpler. Did not have all the complications of the internet, schemes being pulled on people without being face to face. A lot of stuff that can be done sitting on a keyboard or sitting on a chair and virtually doing nothing for yourself. Back then, yeah, if that was the way you wanted to be, a lot of times families would shun you because you're not contributing to the family. You just want to be lazy and goof off and do nothing important with your life. Unfortunately, that happens a lot because I'm guilty of that. And here I am at the age of 50 paying for it. Because now I have to work even harder to, excuse me, my forehead is itchy. I have to work harder to make an income to pay for all the things I need to pay for, and maybe have a little extra to put on the side for a rainy day. That's fine. That's fine, because eventually in life you're going to go, I should have done this as a kid, or I should have done this when I was younger, or I should have had more stick-to-itiveness to keep one job or hold down a job that could become lucrative. That's what happens. But that's life. Life does that. Because, things have become very complicated. And I hope one day things would become uncomplicated, but I don't see that happening if we keep on being the way we are as people. And what I mean by that is just not getting along, not trying to work together, not trying to be like, hey, we're all Americans. Let's act like civilized brothers and sisters under one nation. Now, I'm not saying that we can't. I'm just saying that it's going to be very difficult to get to that point due to the different interests, different religions, different cultures. I'm not even going to say anything about the difference in skin color because I don't see that. I try to be like Jesus and look past the skin into your character, into your how you act, how you treat other people. Skin color shouldn't matter. Language shouldn't even matter. It's really what's on the inside that matters most. I mean, yeah, we're talking about the Vikings who, interestingly enough, when they started sailing down towards the Mediterranean and whatnot, and they raided and captured people from different lands, different skin tones and whatnot, and they became integrated into the Viking people, whether they were integrated as servants or what. Yes, my ancestors were violent. Yes, my ancestors were also slave traders. But if you look beyond that and you see their culture and their everyday lives and look past the raiding and the Viking aspect of the Norsemen, you would realize these people are quite civilized. They're more traders and farmers, and it was only of necessity or payback, however you want to put it, that they started doing the Viking thing. Yes, Vikings were big burly men and brave women who went out and raided and pillaged and slaughtered, coastal cities and towns and whatnot for whatever they wanted. But you get back to the homestead and they could have been just about anybody, any culture through history that had no bloody warfare. But then we might not know as much as we do now, because it seems like history would rather look at the rough part, the murdering part, the hardcore, serious, going out and conquering territories instead of the everyday life of the Norsemen, the English people, the Saxons, the French, the Germans. You know, most of the history is written because of the violence that these people portrayed throughout history. There's very little in history books that did not somehow evolve around the violent part before they got to the civilized part. In fact, most history books are not even written. There's very little about various parts of the world before World War One. I mean, most of the history books, the Prussian War, World War One, World War Two, the Battle of Alamo, the Battle of Little Bighorn. Where's the history? Where's the juice that caused these events? Because I'm pretty sure the cause of these events was because of white people trying to conquer a land that was already inhabited. I mean, for the most part, the Vikings, when they landed on England, on the northern part of England, south of Hadrian's Wall, they landed in an area that did not look occupied, and they wanted to settle there and create a little settlement. But it was because of the British, that the whatever they were called back then, was like, oh, no, we claim this land. Really? Where's your mark? You don't have a mark on this territory to say it's yours. It's open. There's nobody here. British didn't care. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the history of what made Britain Britain before the Norsemen arrived. Thanks to the Romans. Don't know. But the people who were already there but did not claim it as theirs, it was open territory, did not want to negotiate. They just, you gotta leave. If you don't leave, we're going to come and push you off. For the most part, when the Norsemen landed on British territory, it was mostly farmers with a handful of skilled warriors. And those skilled warriors were mostly to protect, not to go fighting, to protect the homestead, the new settlement. Most of the people that came were families who wanted to establish a settlement so they can send home goods to Norway or to their home territories in Scandinavia. It was the British that caused the whole Viking thing to occur. And it was more like, okay, you slaughtered our people when our people was there peacefully, so we're going to come and slaughter your whole country. Because back then it was basically, an eye for an eye. But anyhow, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I did not want to make another long video, but I did somehow, because I finally got to a point where I can speak my brain. Wow. Did not cough the whole time, and all of a sudden I'm coughing. That's weird. But anyhow, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments about this video, you can put them in the comment box. And if you're new to my channel and like history and like what I'm talking about when it comes to the Norsemen and what they did, you're more than welcome to join in by clicking on the subscribe button. And once you do that, you can click on the little bell, and YouTube will let you know when I put in my next video. So until next time, you guys have a good day. Enjoy. Bye.